Hi, my name is Beth, and this is my story. I was raised daughter of a pastor, so I knew about God from the very beginning. And I had my years of wandering away, and when I came back, I wondered why I'd left. I fell in love with a young man and put him on the throne of my heart. And so that was my first marriage. I was barely 18. And I was married to him for 5 years. And he was repeatedly unfaithful. And we tried to make the marriage work at 2 years. And a few years later, there was another woman. And at that point, I was pregnant with my first child. And that was another one of those moments you just never forget. My husband said, "I don't want you, I don't want the baby, and I don't want your God." I was afraid, I was angry, I was suicidal. And if it hadn't been for my young son who needed me, I don't know that I would have survived that. I had been married for the second time to a man who was violent. We had been married for 11 years. I was pregnant with my 5th child. Over that time period, I developed a self-hatred, and I was convinced that I was no good. It ran real deep. And it was a real scary time. It was scary for me, and when it started to become frightening for my children, I think that's when I woke up. There was a very significant turning point in my life, and at that time I wasn't yet divorced, I was separated, and so I wanted to hear clearly from God. And so I went to this Christian conference, and I heard the word separated only one time, but that's all I needed to hear. And I knew in that moment that I had heard from God. It's interesting because it was one of the hardest times in my life, but it was also one of the sweetest because he drew me to himself. There are some wonderful passages in Isaiah that speak to the young woman whose husband has deserted her. And so between what I heard at the conference and the scripture that I was reading in Isaiah, I believed absolutely that he was the head of my home, that he was the father of those boys, that he was protecting and providing. I was a single mom, I think, for about 5 years. And the miracles that happened, the provision, there's no explaining it outside of divine intervention. I remarried, and my husband, Ron, to whom I'm married now, we've been married 30 years. He adopted those boys, and they all took his name, and he came alongside and walked through some really difficult years. There was damage done when you got a house full of young men who have lived through some hard things, and helping them work through that. But they're all doing really well. There are still some really big unanswered prayers in my life, and I'm very much at peace with those things. And I think it came because of all the hard places that I went through, that God showed his faithfulness and his compassion. As long as we're alive, God can work in our hearts and lives and bring about his purposes. And if you will give him an opportunity to work in your life, he will prove himself faithful over and over and over again.